Giran from the Series 1A. So tonight, now I'm going to tackle the communication in a multicultural society and world. So first, let us define the cultural. Culture can be defined as all the ways of life including arts, belief, institutions of a population that are passed down from generation to generation. So second is melting pot philosophy. So the melting pot philosophy theory holds that like metals melted together at great heat, so the melting together of several cultures will produce a new compound. So one has great strength and other combined advantages. Next is cultural pluralism. So cultural pluralism is a term used when a smaller group within a larger society maintain their unique cultural identities, whereby their values and practices are accepted by the dominant culture. So provided such are consistent with the laws and values of the wider society. So next is co-cultures. So the act or process of culturing two types of cells or tissues in the same medium co-cultures of pancreatic tumor cells and fibroblast co-cultures conditions or studies. So next one is marginalized groups, social exclusion or social marginalization is a social disadvantage and relegation to the fringe of society. It is a term that has been used widely in Europe and was first used in France in the late 20th century. It used across the discipline including education, sociology, psychology, politics, and economics. So next is accommodation. So the term accommodation may be used to describe an alterations of environment, curriculum format, or equipment that allows an individual with a disability to gain access to content and or complete assigned tasks. They allow students with disabilities to pursue a regularly course of study. So next is separation, the action or the state of moving or being moved apart. So next is ethnocentrism. So evaluate of other cultures according to the perceptions originating in the standard and costumes one's own cultures. So next is globalization. So the process by which business or organization develop international influence or start operating on an international scale. And next is multiculturalism. So the presence of or support for the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic group within a society. So next one is diversity. So diversity is defined as the condition of having many different elements. An example of diversity is a classroom full of children of different backgrounds. And the next one is culturally confused. So in sociology and cultural studies, cultural dissonance is a sense of discord, disharmony, confusion, or conflict. So experiments by the people in the midst of change in their cultural environment. Next is cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism, also called cultural colonialism, comprises the cultural aspects of imperialism. So imperialism here refers to the creation and maintenance of unequal relationships between civilizations, favoring powerful civilizations. So next is intercultural communication. So intercultural communication is a discipline that studies communication across different cultural and social group or how culture affect communication. So next is interracial communication. So interracial communication is a genre of communication study that embraces the interaction between people representing different historical races. So next is interethnic communication. So interethnic communication is defined as the communication of the representative of different ethnic communities in a situation of prolonged cohabitations in the same society and citizens of one state. So next is international communication. So international communication is the communication practice that occurs across international borders. The need for international communication was due to the increasing effects and influences of globalizations. And last is intercultural communication. So intercultural communication is a discipline that studies communication across the different cultures and social groups, or how culture affect communications. Number two, I am going to compare and contrast. So compare and contrast the individualisms and collectivisms. So collectivisms prioritize group cohesions over individual pursuits, and it sees long-term relationships as essential since it promotes group goals. On the other hand, individualism focuses on human independence and freedom. It is generally against external influences regarding personal choices. So next is highest context communication culture and low context communication culture. Generally, high context culture prefer oral communications, while low context culture favor written communication. When it comes to email, text, and online messaging, low context culture use it to fire off quick. So frequent message. Next is the higher power distance and low distance culture. So the higher power distance culture and which culture is one in power inequality is a pronounced and a common people accept that without question. So some people have power while others don't. That's the way it is. High power distant culture tend to value things like tradition, which keep society stable and prevent massive changes to power relations, while the low distance culture in some places the power distance of income inequality is low. This means that there is a small spread between the richest and the poorest of people in society. So Australia is an example of an low power distance country. On this measure, Saudi Arabia is a high power distant country. So the next one is masculine culture and feminine culture. So in a masculine culture, men are expected to be assertive, competitive, and focus on material success. So women are expected to be nurturing and focus on people and quality of life. So in contrast, Hofstede says feminine culture or feminine society is one where gender roles are more fluid. Number three, or last one. So let's discuss the kind of problem culturally confused face. So there are actually example of this. First, religion is a core of cultural characteristic of many peoples. identity and it can affect perceptions, intentions as well. So as work behavior, a different belief and ethical principles can cause conflict among co-workers or even lead to religious discriminations. Next is ethnicity. The term of ethnicity refers to belonging to a social group who identify with each other based on their shared attributes like common heritage, language, identity, and origin. So common example of ethnicity include Hispanic, Irish, Cambodian, or Jewish. So each has its unique behavior patterns, mannerisms, and communication style. So next is sexual orientation and gender identity. Workplace issues due to sexual orientation are very common. LGBTQ communities are often subject to harassment, hostility, bias, joke, or inappropriate questions that lead to employee disengagement. In fact, many workers hide their identities for fear of discriminations. So next one is education. So the educational level is also part of people's background and affect how they fit into workplace environments. So different in educational experiences means different approaches to problems and situation in the workplace. So this can use conflicts among employees working on the same project but implementing certain methodologies based on their own education. So lastly is generation depending on their generation. So employees may also have different outlooks, values, and ideas about business and professionalisms. For example, older generation tend to have long-term career expectations, so making them more loyal to an employer. On the other hand, um, millennials tend to have a higher value of work-life balance and consistently seek growth opportunities. So they are most likely to move on to another company or higher positions. I think that's all. So thank you for watching and have a good night ahead.